It is my joy to come to you today and speak about the light. I see your light. I see it. I know that you have this light inside of you. I know that. I know that you have infinite creativity, infinite resources available to you. I know you to be brilliant. There is no doubt in my mind about this. I know you to be brilliant. I stand here today to remind you of your magnificence. My purpose is to reflect this love and this light back to you. What is it that we remind our children every week? You are the light of the world. Live as the light. Every week we remind our children that. And so I have a story around this. During my intensive week of my final ordination process at my seminary, as part of our ministerial requirements, we had to put together our own minister's manual with prayers and ceremonies, things that we had developed over the course of our program of study. And one of the final things that we had to write was our personal vow of ministry. And I sat with this for a long, long time. I sat with this. What is my vow? How am I going to be as a minister? And I thought, and finally I had it down. And they wanted us to just have a couple sentences. They didn't want a big, long thing. It had to be very precise and concise. So I got it, and I wrote down my couple of sentences, and I'm like, okay, I'm good. That was my last thing. Boom, put my manual together and sent it off to my dean. And then during this last week, the last week of our process, we had a very, very special vow-taking ceremony. It was incredibly beautiful. If you can imagine a room this size, completely candlelit, and all of our teachers are up here, and we're in the back. And one by one, we come up to the microphone, and we speak our vow to our colleagues. And they call us up row by row. And my row, I'm just sitting there, and I'm ready. I got it memorized. I'm good. And we stand up. My row stands up, and Spirit goes, "Sorry, change of plans." I'm like, "You're kidding. Really?" "Yep. You got a new vow." I'm like, "Okay, what is it?" "You are the light of the world." I'm like, oh, yeah. That can be a vow? And Spirit's like, "Of course it can." So I stood up, and I came to the microphone, and it felt like there was another piece to it. But right then all I got was, so I stood up and I said, "I am the light of the world." And I was waiting to see if there was another something, and it didn't come. So I just said it again. "I am the light of the world." And my heart's going like this, like, okay. And I went and I sat back down. And the next morning, we had a group sharing where we could all, if we wanted to, we could kind of share what went on during that ceremony for us. And so a few of my colleagues stood up and shared, and Spirit did it again. Spirit gave me the second piece. And it was, "I will live as the light." That every week, that has been repeated and repeated for me every week. And Spirit was like, "That's your vow. Go and live as the light. Be the light. Go and live as the light." And so how do we do that? What I've been processing is, how do I live as the light? What does that mean? Well, first of all, we think about that we have this light. We are this light. It's always shining, always. It's never not shining. It's always shining. But what do? Right? Right? And sometimes we peek out. And you know how babies, when they're playing peekaboo, and are you still looking at me? Oh, no. Right? Okay. So we learn to begin to shade our light. We can't put it out. We can't dim it. It's there. But we learn to shade it a little bit. We're in elementary school, and we get a coloring project, and we make these beautiful purple trees. And our teacher says, trees aren't purple. And we get a bad grade because we made purple trees, right? Or our parents get divorced, and we think, was it, somehow our little child says, did I do something? Was that me? And we begin to doubt ourselves, and we sort of start to build this lampshade. But we remember on some level, always. We remember. Somehow we don't give up, because every once in a while we do. We peek out from underneath that lampshade and we check to see if anybody's out there. And if we're lucky enough, we find a spiritual community of people who see our light and are willing to hold out our light for us until we can see it for ourselves. So how do we live as the light? Number one, we acknowledge that we have a light. Are you willing to? I have a light? Yeah? Okay, so we acknowledge it's there. We acknowledge it's there. I have this light, and I'm willing to shine. Are you willing to shine?
Yes.
Good. So number one, we recognize it. We acknowledge it. That's how we live as the light. We recognize it. We share our gifts. We listen to Spirit. I have an interesting story that happened a couple of years ago about listening to Spirit. We don't always want to, but when we do, it turns out great, doesn't it? I was in the grocery store, and what I needed in the grocery store was over here. And I'm going over here, and Spirit like, no, sorry, you need to go over here. And I'm like, no, I need this. Spirit's like, no, you have to go over here. So Spirit was so insistent that I did indeed follow, and I went over here, and there in the aisle there was a guy on the floor, hurt. And a woman was standing over him trying to figure out what to do. And I went up, and I somehow it was gleaned that he was from Vietnam, and he was an older gentleman. And my geography went off, and I knew that he would speak French, and I am trained in speaking French. And so Spirit was looking around, who's available? Oh, Edie, there she is, there's Edie. We're going to pick Edie up, and we're going to take her and put her over here so she can help the medics. Because the woman could not speak with him at all. So the medics came, and I was able to do the little triage that they do, ask him the important questions that they needed in order to give him the proper care. But had I not listened to Spirit, eventually he would have figured it out, but it was easier for them because I was open to being directed over to where I needed to be. And so living as the light, we are open. We're open to the direction of Spirit. And we know how it feels. It's the still small voice, right? It's the still small voice, and we listen to it, and we hone it. We hone that voice. And coincidentally, the same thing happened to me a couple years later in the same place. It was, I don't know what it was about that place, but I was going to go to the grocery store, and Spirit says, no, you need coffee. And coffee was over here. The coffee shop was over here. I'm like, no, I have to go get some things at the store. And Spirit again was like, no, you really want a cup of coffee. You really do. I'm like, okay. So I go over here to near the coffee shop. And it was winter time. And there was a woman who had fallen on the ice. And Edie, oh, Spirit, let's grab Edie and we'll take her over here because she has some first aid training and she knows what to do. And so I was, helping her get up and making sure she was okay. But again, I had to listen to that. I had to be the light. I had to be willing and open to the guidance of Spirit. Everybody know what that feels like? When you get that. So living the light, living as the light is being open to Spirit. Acknowledge that we have this light. Don't hide it. Don't start taking your lampshade off. How can I take my lampshade off today? How can I shine today? How can I let Spirit use me today? Okay. So I'm going to take you through a couple of exercises. If I'm speaking, I want to make you work a little bit, right? Yeah. And I'm going to take a couple pages out of Jim's books, some of the things that he has taught us. I'm going to bring them into our lesson today. So one of the things that we can do to come out from under the lampshade is we use our spirit vision for each other. We come together and we see our friend's light. We get together with our friends, and our friends help us by holding our light. And we can also question those messages that we got. We have those little messages, those little voices that question our worth, that make us regret what happened yesterday. Oh, I should have said that, or we have those little voices, the voices of the lampshade, I call them, okay? And we can question that. We can say, well, who says? So I'm going to run you through a little exercise about that. And I have to preface that, I have a little tidbit from the Bible. In Genesis, after Adam and Eve ate the apple, they realized they're naked and they cover themselves. And eventually God checks in on them and they hide. Finally, they come out of hiding and admit that they were afraid that they were naked. And God says, who told you were naked? In other words, where'd you get a crazy idea like this? How could you question your worth? You are a child of the Most High. How could you ever question your worth? So I'm going to have you, if you are able and willing, I would like you to stand. And those of you who are on the web, I invite you to share in this exercise as well. Okay. Remember a couple of months ago, Jim did a talk. And one of the things he asked us to do to help us kind of get centered in our power was our power stance. I don't know if you remember this. So you put your hands on your hips, take a deep breath, or as Linda says, you can also put your hands up high. This is your power stance. Okay, you're going to stand in your power. And I want you to call to mind one of those messages, one of those lampshade messages. Just call that to mind. One of those lies that you were told. Okay. Now out loud say, who says? Who says? Who says? Who says? Can you feel that? You question that. Question that message. Who says? Who says? Okay. You can sit down now. You can sit down now. Exactly, who says? So like Simon says, but you don't get out. And this is one of the things that one of our founders, Myrtle, did. She questioned her diagnosis. She questioned the established medical convention of the time. She was given a serious terminal diagnosis. Within 6 months, I think they said that she would be dead of tuberculosis. And she says, well, who says? Who says? And she went to Spirit. She took it to Spirit. And Spirit revealed to her the truth of her being. And she worked with the principles that she had been taught. And she opened herself up to the guidance of Spirit. And within 2 years, she was completely cured. Because she said, who says? She allowed her light to shine. She came out from under that lampshade. She said, who says? Who says? So you let your light shine. And we're going to wrap up with a little meditative exercise. You have a little candle. Everybody have a little candle, okay? You're going to go home with this candle, and I'll explain about it when we're finished with this meditative exercise. And we'll have a little sharing as well. Before we start the exercise, if you are comfortable, I invite you to pair up with somebody, if you would like. You can also do this by yourself, but it'll be a little more fun, I think, if you pair up. And those of you online, if you would like to use the chat to work with this exercise, I invite you to do that as well. Okay. Close your eyes. Take a nice deep breath. And repeat after me. I am the light of the world. 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 Now, in this quiet time, consider these questions. How do you shine your light? How does your light shine? How will you live as the light? How do you shine your light? How does your light shine? How will you live as the light? Okay. So you're going to share something that came to you with your partner. And partner, you're going to say, I see your light. Okay? Decide who's going to go first. And go. Okay, let's wrap it up. Let's wrap it up. And just really quickly, I would love it if one or two of you would be brave enough just to share a couple of words, maybe a sentence. If anybody is brave enough and would like to share, how are you going to live as the light this week? Anybody want to share? Anybody, any brave soul? Yes. Really quick, yeah. You're going to give up complaining. Marvelous. Congratulations. One more. One more brave soul like to share?
Stand in your truth.
Stand in your truth. Excellent. Stand in your truth. So, spiritual practice, having a committed, consistent spiritual practice. This helps us live as the light. It helps us listen to Spirit, strengthen our spiritual muscles. So I gave you a little tea light. Everybody have their little tea light? Okay. This is for you. Every morning, I want you to light this light for you. This is your light. So every morning, if you don't do anything else, when you could put it on the toilet tank and light it while you're brushing your teeth, or wherever it makes sense in your morning routine. Light the candle for yourself and say, today I will shine my light. Today I will be the light. Today I will live as the light. And just incorporate that into your prayer time. And I guarantee you, you will get some incredible, incredible downloads from Spirit. And when your light's all done, you can go to the bookstore and buy a bigger one. And keep it going. Keep it going. Keep it going. So I close with a parable. God and his angels were talking about creation of the planet. They said, now we've got the earth and we've got the sky and the mountains and the rivers and the moon and the stars. Now we will create humans. Where shall we hide the truth of their being from them? One of them said, let's hide it on the highest mountaintop. No, eventually they'll learn to scale the mountain and they'll find it. Let's take it down to the very deepest part of the ocean. No, don't hide it there. Eventually humans will learn to go to the deepest part of the ocean. Don't hide it there. Let's hide it on the moon then. No, eventually they'll get to the moon. Finally, they all knew, all at once, exactly where to hide the truth. And that was within themselves. So all of the avatars, all of the great teachers, all the saints and the sages of all time have said, there is a place in you that is absolutely holy. There is a place in you that is absolutely pure. There's a place in you that is divine. And it is Spirit. It is God. It is the kingdom within you. Remember always how brilliant you are. And so it is.